A very warm welcome to all of you who have already joined in. And I wish each one of you the best wishes for Makar Sankranti, which is celebrated all across the country. And we are still in the flavor of the celebration. It marks the arrival of spring season and marks the first Hindu harvest festival in the country. We also worship the sun god. And Amitav and I were discussing about how the sun is not coming up. And it only came up yesterday. And somehow there is good rays and warmth around today as well. So welcome everyone and wish you the best of Makar Sankranti celebration. And with that, I want to welcome Amitav without any delay, because there's a lot that we have discussed and we want to bring to all of you today in the next 1 hour of our discussion. I would want to introduce Amitav. He's an HR practitioner with 20 years of experience. He has worked with NTPC, PepsiCo, Ruchi Soya, and Aditya Birla Group. He heads the HR function of Agile Airport Services Private Limited, which is a subsidiary company of Indigo Airlines. He's certified practitioner of OPQ 32, a change agent and assessor of HR excellence framework. He has worked extensively on talent management and merger and acquisition. He also has expertise in employee relations, signed multiple long-term settlements, worked on multi-skilling and productivity of employees. He believes in disciplined execution and adulates execution skills. He's curious on emerging scenario arising from new labor codes. There is more that I would want to tell you, but before that, let me start with something that I really want to focus on as a flavor of today's program. That is with something that Swami Vivekanand has always spoken about. Take up one idea, make that one idea your life, think of it, dream of it, live on that idea. And why do I say that? I say that because Amitav has taken his passion for HR work to another level, where he has also launched his first website a couple of days back, where he runs master classes on labor codes. And at the same time, there are reading material, podcast, classes which are offered pro bono to all of us. So with that, I would hand over the session to Amitav to give us a little bit of understanding as to what brought this idea of creating a website, reaching out to the larger cohort of HR at large with things that we need to know and things that will help us with HR next, if I may say.
Right. Thank you, Shweta. And at the outset, Happy New Year to all the participants, all those who have attended this meeting. And I wish for the health and safety of each one of you and your family. Thanks for taking this question on why this website. And yes, I can say this is a passion today, but it started long back. And I will refer to my early childhood. I grew up in Tata Steel Township, and my father used to work in the mines in Tata Steel in a remote place. So I had that curiosity to understand how do people work, and I was more interested to know how the workers work. So I will go to the mines, I will see how the operation happens. I will see how the blasting happened. And those were the curious things. So the blasting of the mines where the minerals were excavated, it was done on the hill because the mines were on the hill, and on the base we had the township. And every day, sharp at 6 o'clock in the morning, the blasting will happen, and the entire township quarters will shiver. So that used to be our morning clock. So much so that if I overslept, my mother will come and tell that you haven't yet woken up. The blasting had happened. So it was synonymous with the birds chirruping in the places. It was the morning blasting, and so those were the early images that I carried, and I always had that curiosity to know how the workers work, what is it that regulates. So those were the earlier thoughts. Then after MBA, I wanted to get into handling labor relations, and I had to ask for it when I was in NTPC. I asked that give me a place where the location is tough, and that's where I got to learn the exposure of labor laws. And over my period of time, after practicing on labor laws, I realized that labor law is not just a set of laws or acts that you know. It is something which is so critical that it touches everyone in the HR sphere. And I found, so that was one observation I had. This of course, that curiosity, and I have read it somewhere, Shweta, that you do not, there is nothing called passion, because if you are passionate about something today, tomorrow you might not be as passionate. And passion is something that you develop from curiosity. If you are curious about something, you go working deep on it, and then that becomes your passion. So that's how I was practicing labor laws. But then the trigger for this website came from a visit. A very renowned Swamiji of Belur Math. I had the occasion to meet him, and he told me, Amitabh Babu, because that's the way they respect others. So he told me, Amitabh Babu, why don't you go to TED and talk about your skills in HR? And I was taken aback. I thought, skills in HR? What do I go and speak for 20 minutes, 25 minutes? So that was the point. I started thinking that what are the skills that I should be having in HR? So that's what I realized that labor laws is something that has to be a skill, and I realized that this is a critical skill. And more I talked about it, the more I realized that there are so many in HR who realize that this has to be a skill, but there was lack of content. There was no proper way of building the skill, and whatever was there in the market was either too costly, too boring. So I thought, why not make it simple? So the labor codes that I have, master classes which I have prepared, these are all storytelling, very conversational, and it's deal with a day-to-day situation. So there is a common character called Wagleji. Wagleji has a small factory and all those things. So everything that HR person can easily relate to. So that is about the website. And I hope that I would be able to bring some value to the HR fraternity. I will look forward to the feedback, opinion of the practitioners, how they like it. So that's on the website.
So Amita, we lost the last part of what you're saying unless everyone else heard it. So you said you wanted feedback on
Yeah.
on the
So I was telling that in the website there are master classes, there are podcasts. So I will request everyone to have a look at the website. It's called laborlawsofindia.in. So I hope that the website and the content is of some value to everyone. So tomorrow I'm starting the blog series. It's a Sunday blog series called Sunday Gupshup. So it would be a small blog of 3 minutes where I take up each of the issues. I will take up an issue that labor law addresses. So you will see labor law touches everything that HR person does, whether it is diversity, inclusiveness, engagement, work-life balance, participation of female employees in the workplace. So I take up each issue in the Sunday Gupshup, and then I raise it that let's blog on it. So I
That's
hope it will
great.
be interesting.
So you have one person in. I'm going to be a part of it tomorrow, and probably I'm sure there's going to so much to learn and take forward in terms of best practices from what you have from the enriching experience that you carry from right from NTPC to the aviation sector that you're a part of right now. So in this journey, Amitav, we see that when we are 20 years, 15 years, there's a lot of habit that has already been inculcated in each one of us, whether it's professional skills or a certain way of working. um, the environment has changed, right? So when this environment has changed, what do you think are those 2 or 3 habits, according to you, which we need to pertinently probably unlearn or give away from the HR resource point of view?
Oh, another nice question. So yes, the world has changed. Definitely, the world has changed in last 2 years. And one thing, and this I speak about what I have experienced. I find that HR comes into play in an organization when an organization reaches a particular scale. So when a startup happens, they do not require HR function. The need of HR function comes later. And we in HR are taught, are oriented towards looking at organization. But now when the changes are happening, so the big changes that you see are major disruptions happening in the established way of doing, and new industry, new businesses are coming. That is one change. Second, you see the wave of entrepreneurship in India. So I was looking at the job employment data of the Ministry of Labor, and they have just published the quarterly report. So out of the total jobs created, 90% of the jobs are created in organizations which have less than 100 employees. So which means these are the small organizations. And for these organizations, do they know HR? Do they understand HR? Probably no. So and I had my exposure. I have interacted with couple of small enterprises, and they have the need. So what we do is HR, that need is already there, but the need of a function is not there. So the way I think I would be unlearning is to unlearn the practices, way of looking at organized business, and look more as how as HR I can bring value, how value can be suggested or a value proposition can be created for those organizations, because 90% of jobs, 90% of employment is happening on that sector. So how as HR we can be relevant to them is the question. Again, the curiosity that I will take forward with me.
Okay. So we were talking about changes in the environment and the dynamics of working. And one big word or the great word that we hear about is the great resignation that is happening. Along with that, there are several other aspects that are happening in the environment. Your thoughts and views?
Yes. So one thing I realized, Sweta, is the great resignation is not a fad. It is something which has happened. Probably I do not have an answer to why this is happening, but this is happening across sectors is a fact. And there might be n number of reasons. So today only I was going through a report where it suggested that the top IT companies, they are having an attrition of 25 to 28%, which is probably the highest ever. So while we see that technology has taken a leap during the lockdown, but the attrition happening in the best employers in IT is again raises a question mark that why it's happening. If I look at the reason, there are multiple reasons. So if you look at the bottom class or bottom part of the pyramid, the working class, the workers, people who were migrating to the cities for jobs and livelihoods, that have gone down. It might be because people no more want to do that mad rush for job. They want to probably focus more on family. They are happy, probably contented on whatever earning they get, staying with the family. The people are looking at, as you look at the entrepreneurship people, there's a wave of entrepreneurial activities which are going on. There are n number of things, but then the fact remains that the pool uh, is suddenly disappearing. And I will give you one example. I was checking with someone for Hyderabad because we were struggling to get people in Hyderabad, and I checked to find out why is it happening. And I was assuming the same thing, that migration probably is not happening, all those stuff. I came to know that because of the vaccination which is happening, we are manufacturing lots of vaccines, and suddenly the API industry in Hyderabad, they are hiring lots of people to manufacture those. So that is again a trend which was not obvious, but that is impacting the flow. So there are so many things which are happening: resignation, the demographic change. So no clear answers, but I see this as a practice which is here to stay.
Thank you so much for that. It's a practice which is here to stay. And so, what are your views in terms of the high potentials who are working with us? How are they accepting this change, and how is their mindset right now towards the way of working and the work culture or the organization at large?
So, Shweta, again, the practices, high performers, performance management, all these tools that we had, these had the context of a stable environment or a predictable business growth. Uh, Now, during these times, I think the things, there are changes, there are so many changes happening, and there are so many paradigms which are happening. In that context, whether the high potential or the person who was identified as hypo, whether that person itself is engaged, how is the engaged, whether the engagement has remained the same or the engagement has changed, whether business priority on which the person was performing, whether that performance itself is relevant. So we need to have a complete relook at those things. Probably we cannot assume that the things are linear. So what was happening hypo before COVID is still a high potential now, is an assumption that needs to be checked, that need to be reinforced. And that is where something which is proposed in a book called The Alliance. The Alliance is a book written by Reid Hoffman, and he is the founder of LinkedIn. He says a very beautiful concept that's called tour of duty. So if you look at in army, they have a role, they do a role, a duty, and then there is a change in duty. So each role is a negotiation. You come into a role, you do the role, you meet the expectation, and during each of the role, the employee and the organization, they invest into the relationship, and then the next role goes. So probably time for us to look at from that perspective, in terms of the hypo, what is the expectation, what does the business expect, and do a recheck on the assumption on which the person was marked hypo, and to check whether the person still continues to be engaged. If not, then the necessary interventions.
Thank you for your view, Amitav. So, Amitav, having said that, these are the things that you unlearned and probably we will think of. Then we went on to the changing dynamics in the environment. So now the very important aspect of putting the puzzle together, that is, what is it that is pertinent and imperative now in terms of HR skills for the HR resource management team?
Right. So again, in that book called World is Flat, Thomas Friedman has told that uh, when the economic upswing happens, then at that time the organized activity. So when I say organized activity, organizations, what do I bring in onto table collectively? All those themes are relevant. When the business is on the downside, it is more about the skills, individual skills. So I believe we are in an era where HR skills as a profession, the skills in the profession is more relevant than collectively what you do as a function. That it is more to do with the changes. It has more to do with the gigs. So you see lots of intervention happening in terms of HR automation, HR technology. Then there are few more functional interventions which are happening. But my take is HR skills, whatever. So for me, labor codes, the knowledge of labor laws is one skill, and the way I look at it, it is one skill through which you can start as a premise for building the other skills. Similarly, the individual skills of HR and the way to test is the skill that I have. Do I have a market for it? Tomorrow, if I go and register myself in urban company, will my skill sell? So the question that I ask each time, and which one of my CHRO has earlier told, that HR is not an entitlement. So tomorrow, organization might look that whether I hire HR or I own HR. So there are organizations, for example, Decathlon's one of the country, they have removed the HR. They do not have HR. They've got a HR committee, and they find value. They find value in the business. So the to be relevant, HR person needs to ask that what are the skills, what is the market for the skill, do the skill have a marketplace, can I remain employable with this skill? So I think these are the questions which every HR person should be asking himself or herself.
Great, some very important questions that we need to reflect on to take charge of what is new. So from your experience over the number of years that you started with NTPC and then you moved on, would you like to share with us some of those stories and the skills that you have attained from those success or from those experiences, the best practices that have helped you not only in the organization where they were formative, it also went on to with you to the other organization and benefited the employees at large?
Sure. Thank you for asking this question. So I will start with NTPC. So NTPC, in fact, so whatever learning I had taken on labor laws and engagement, it has got everything to do with NTPC. And so I joined NTPC as an executive trainee, and we were at Noida. So when the placements were happening, who will be posted where? So I asked that which is the toughest plant, where you're the most notorious plant, and someone told me there's a place called Farakka in West Bengal. So that's the most notorious plant. So I told the person who was coordinating, I told her, Manjula ma'am, I told her that I want to go to Farakka, and she was very kind. She was a kind of a motherly kind of a lady. She told me, why do you want to go there? You know, your predecessor was beaten up in that factory, in that plant. So it's a tough plant. You should not go there. I said, no, let me try it. I would like to go there in that plant. So I landed in NTPC Farakka, and I wanted to do industrial relation, employee relation, contract labor, trade union handling, all those things. I had the head of HR. I went and told him that, sir, I want to do a role in ER. He said, very good. For next 1 year, he did not give me ER. I kept on craving, give me ER. One full year, he gave me all the other things, not ER. And one day I saw organization announcement made, Amitabh, you are moved into ER. And I was damn happy. I told my wife, no, I got a role in ER. I went running to my boss. So he was sitting one floor above. And I told him that, sir, I had been requesting for 1 year. And why did you made me wait for a year? I said, look, I wanted to check whether you actually want to do ER or you have read it in the books that ER is glamorous and you wanted to do that. So that was how I got an entry. And my head of HR, he is still my mentor. And whatever learning I had, I was fortunate that I had a mentor, a boss who gave me all the freedom in a public sector company like that. In a place like Farakka, where there is so much of complexity, he gave me all the, he empowered me. The first empowerment was do whatever you want to do. Don't touch a live wire. He then changed himself. He said, "Go even touch a live wire. Let me know. I will handle." So I had the support of Bhattamishra sir, and if he's listening to this interview, my regards to him. Whatever I learned, the skill of dealing, and he told me that, look, I will teach you language. I will not teach. I will teach you the literature. I will not teach you the slang, which means that I will teach you the right way of handling employee relation, not the jugaad way. And the fundamentals were set, and it was such a strong fundamental that whenever there was a work stoppage, which used to happen very occasionally in Farakka, so there would be group of 100, 200, 300 workers, contract laborers, crowded, shouting for something. I could straight away pierce into the crowd. The leaders will not go, the department head would not go. I could go because I had the conviction. We were practicing compliance. People knew that mm, this person stands for us. So that was the kind of credibility I learned working on the ground. And this learning I took to PepsiCo. I All the things that I wanted to do in NTPC, I did it PepsiCo. We did something very historic. We did a wage settlement, which was a 0-day wage settlement, which has never happened anywhere in the North India. We were the first plant in North India to do that. We did a town hall, workmen, trade union, and management coming together. That happens only in Tata Steel. So it was all the learning that I took from NTPC, which I could replicate. And in fact, the best practice of PepsiCo, I could go and I could replicate in a promoter-driven company in Ruchi Soya. So those were the learnings basically.
Yes, and more about it, as in, you made a change from NTPC to PepsiCo and then to Ruchi Soya. So Ruchi Soya being a promoter-driven company, we would say it would be a challenging thought or a decision to move from an organization which is very well layered, structured, and all of that, which the name suggests, to an organization which is promoter driven, more revenue, bottom line, all of that. So, what was this transition all about, and how did you kind of marry the thoughts of implementing best practices of the erstwhile organizations in Ruchi Soya?
Okay. So two questions you have asked: the transition from PepsiCo to Ruchi Soya, and how the best practices I can move. So before answering your question,
Yes.
Shweta, I will just set a small context of how that change. So whenever you do these changes, it's first something you think about cognitively, and then you act on it. So the basis of my thinking was my father. My father has worked for his entire lifetime in Tata Steel, and in 2002 there was a organization assessment which was done. So a consultant was brought in, and they did the skill assessment, competency assessment of the employees. And I found that there was a gap. So he was assessed that, look, the organization skill that is required and the skill that you have does not match, and you will have to take a golden handshake. So it was heartbreaking for me. I have seen my father working uh, like working very, very hard working like donkey for long hours in a place like mines, interior mines. And at at the right time in late 50s, when the capacity to look for job outside does not remain, how can the organization be so brutal and come that the skill didn't match? So I had a very bad impression. But then over the years, when I thought upon it, I realized that ultimately it's the employability which counts. Whichever organization you are, you need to be employable, and the onus of remaining employable remains with you. So that was the premise I had in my mind. So with that premise, NTPC, I wanted to work on employee engagement, because other than PSU, no one gives the complexity to work in a engagement in a ER situation, which I did. I practiced the thoughts. I did lots of intervention in PepsiCo plant. So it was all done. So whatever I wanted to do, the critical learning, I have picked up everything. So I decided now I will have to look at the other part of the organization. So manufacturing is just one part. I need to understand the supply side of the supply chain side of the business, the sales, the marketing, the business, the other sides, the corporate side. So that was the reason I took a move. Now, I had been working in the manufacturing for so many years. So when I decided to look outside PepsiCo, I was not getting an entry. So all the big organizations, whether it's Colgate Palmolive, Castrol, I was getting all the roles in manufacturing. But I said, no, I'm no more interested in a manufacturing HR role. I want to get into a sales HR role. And that was when this Ruchi Soya thing came. So my the manager Asim Banerjee, he's again very senior. He called me up. He said, Amitabh, I am calling from a company called Ruchi Soya. Have you heard the name of this company? I said, no, sir. So he asked, will you like to join? I said, yes, sir. So he said, you have not heard the name of this company and you want to join. So it was a sales role, of course, a business hub role. So he said, why do you want to join? I said, sir, I don't want to join the company. I want to join you. Because I knew Ashim Banerjee. I have heard lots about him, his way of working and all those things. So I told him that, sir, look, a person joins a company, leaves a manager. So I want to change it. I will join a manager so that I remain hooked. There won't be a risk of leaving a company because the company I know, it's a promoter-driven company. I had all the assumption. There won't be any practices. But then it was such a nice decision working in a promoter driven organization. I think every HR person for once in the lifetime should work in promoter driven organization. You come to know so much about the organization, and more than anything else, you establish your existence as HR. So I worked in this organization and I was very fortunate because of some intervention. The business head told me that, Amitabh, I didn't knew HR can bring so much of value to business. So I said, I am done. I have, so I had taken a punch, unknown thing, but then yes, I have created value, and I was deeply satisfied of creating value in a promoter driven organization where there was no HR, no training for employees. Employees have been working for 15, 20 years, no training at all. Forget PMS. There was absolutely no practices. And in that kind of an organization, if you are able to go create an impact for the business, you are done as HR person. So, so those I think were the transitions.
And I think it's a lot about those small wins which create lasting impacts in organizations where HR is trying to create or is in the verge of creating visibility amongst business, among stakeholders, among customers, along the stakeholder value chain, all of that. So after that, you moved on to the ABG group. Some stories from there in terms of what worked and how you enjoyed your stint, because it seems like these have been stories of enjoying stints of working in the HR domain. And that is what makes the career journey enriching and lasting. So I think we are getting like, how there are these anti-aging different kind of cosmetics that are out in the market. There is also a secret similarly for an everlasting and growing career. And I see that coming from every story that you're sharing with us as to how each story has been about what you have learned and how things have worked out in a very, very amicable manner between HR and business. And there is a mutual respect which has been created in the process, which has brought about a win-win situation in terms of not only impacting, but creating that impression which is everlasting. The people effect is what I mean.
So yes, so the movement from Ruchi Soya to Aditya Birla. Again, Ruchi Soya, so it took us around 2 years to create that impact of an HR organization in the organization. And we had just created that impact. So it was during those times that we started getting the news that Ruchi Soya is probably getting bankrupt. And these kind of things, the employees come to know before it comes in the public. So I was getting a feel that something is not very healthy. And so I saw a risk. So that's where I started. I thought that now it's time to move on. And this role of Aditya Birla came. So my boss at Ruchi Soya, Ashim Banerjee, whom I have joined, I decided to ask him first. And I was very clear, I will say yes if Ashim sir says yes. If he says no, stay back, Amitabh, I will stay back. So I called him with that. I said, sir, I have got a role offer in Aditya Birla. What do I do? He told, give me a days to think over. He did not say anything for the next 24 hours, nothing he said. After 24 hours, he came to my house. And during my entire stint, he has never come. He came to my house. I was in Kolkata. So we discussed. He said, look, I did not say anything because when you told and when you said that you want to move, of course I was very positive. I did not want to say the impulsive response would have been to stay back. So I decided to take a day's time to think rationally. And he told me that I will not stop you because the kind of learning which I wanted to give you, probably I will not be able to give you the way you will get in Aditya Birla. So for your growth, I think you should take this role. So that's how I moved into Aditya Birla without knowing much about the business. The only thing I knew it's a bigger brand, it's a better business, and that's how I moved. But then moving into the organization, I came to know about the talent management practices in Aditya Birla, probably better than any of the organizations I have worked with. And the precision with which talent management process functions in Aditya Birla is amazing. So I was, the mandate was we do only talent management in HR, and actually we were doing only talent management, and rest all were falling in place. So the process are so matured that people move inter cross function, cross business, cross geography, and taking the talent management policy to the person who the last mile. So a person who is working in a sales territory, not even a depot, he is in a remote location. How do you empower that person to know that there is a world of opportunity? I can apply in any of the Aditya Birla Group companies anywhere in the globe. So there was a territory sales executive whom I met. This was in Rajasthan, near Alwar. So I told this person about the talent management policy. He asked very bluntly, he said, sir, tell me one thing. There is a role in Hindalco and it is outside India. If I apply, will they consider? I said, yes. He told me, you are bluffing. I said, give it a try. So this person applied in IJP. So he also forgot, I also forgot. After a few days, he called me up. He said, Amitabh, you know what? I got a call from an expatriate, and he was telling me that they want to assess me for the role. So I said, so what do you think? He said, yes, this works. So if I have this opportunity of applying for any role anywhere in the world, within the group, why should I look outside? So that is the power of talent management. So the attrition is less, the productivity is less, the kind of scores you get in employee engagement was beautiful. But then, yes, the practice of taking talent management to the employees was something that was amazing. The second learning, the critical learning I took from Aditya Birla, and in fact, I contributed in that, was how do you integrate an acquisition? So Aditya Birla has 36 acquisition in their entire history, which I knew, and none of the acquisitions have failed. And the science of integrating is the way they integrate people into the role by role, territory by territory, business by business, and it is amazing cultures in which people work. So generally, what happens when a company acquires a company? So if I'm acquiring a company, I tend to I tend to have that feeling of superiority, and by virtue of acquiring a company, you tend to believe that the employees who have joined from that company are inferior to us. So it's a general assumption that you have. But here in this company, I saw people were given critical roles. People were put into the roles. The entire organization support was there to make the person perform and create role models. So and they were talking. So when we did the integration, we had leaders in the cement business where I was part of, who were talking, who had joined from L&T when Ultratech acquired L&T long back in early 2000. L&T was a bigger company, which which Ultratech has acquired, and the people of L&T are in the leadership roles of the company. So they told that, look, we are in the leadership role, so believe in this company. We want you to succeed. And the way the integration happened was so beautiful that the break even happened much before the projected timelines. People were totally integrated into the roles. The sales units were integrated, and the business was getting the value much before they have planned. So again, that is the power of that's the power what HR brings to table. So very mature process.
Great.
So again, so Pepsi to Ruchi Soya to Aditya Birla, very different experience. But then the way, so if I look at the underlying thing, the skill which has built up in each of the roles. Till PepsiCo, it was employee relation, manufacturing, productivity, multi-skilling, all these things. Aditya Birla onwards, talent management, integration, structure, organization structures. So I think I have been building up the skills. And again, the bottom line is what I keep asking myself, that is my skill relevant? If I go to urban company, will my skill sell? So I keep on asking myself these questions every day.
And of course, a very key word that you used was the power of empowerment. That was very uh, pertinent across the journey, where either the leader or the mentor, the person who brought you in, empowered you with the domain you wanted, or the kind of project you wanted to work on, or the career decision that you were taking. So it's also about the mentors in our life who influence us and help us move forward. And that's the flavor and the, I think, value addition of having a mentor in life, which takes the career forward the way we want to, or probably which they can see and make us see, is how I would like to put it.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you here, Sweta. Even today, there are times when I get stuck. I reach out to Bhattamisra sir of NTPC and I take his suggestion. How do I handle this? You always get a perspective. So I was fortunate that I got a mentor. But even if one does not get a mentor, one should actively look out to find a mentor.
That's right. That's right. I agree with what you're saying, and it really helps iron out those creases and take us through those decisions that we want to make at the crossroads. And the mentor is that person who has already done these two and gotten where we want to. So yes, you're right, and that was a very good reflection that you and I exchanged. And now that you're in the aviation sector, how are things there, and what is it that you want to talk to us? I'm sure there are people among the audience who would want to know as to what's going on in HR when it comes to aviation sector, and how have you impacted the aviation sector working now for so much time?
Okay. So again, moving from Aditya Birla to aviation. So till Aditya Birla, it was all the manufacturing organizations where I have worked. Of course, I have moved from manufacturing to the sales supply chain part of it. But then the organizations were manufacturing organizations, and here it was a service organization, service sector. And the role, again, the role which attracted was a new role. So this is a ground handling company where 90% of the employees are workers and managing that organization. So that was the role. It was a newly set up organization. So the assumption was, can I get all the learning that I have taken, the learning, the practices, the processes that we have for a employee who is not a worker. So I will not use the word blue collared or white collared, because that again is a kind of differentiation. The difference between blue and white no more remains. So I would rather call worker and non-worker. So this was an organization where 92-93% was worker. In fact, more than 90% are workers. So how do I put the system in this kind of organization was something that I wanted to see, and I wanted to test that, can I do it for myself? So the organization, the challenges are different. The hiring that happens is very different. The mindsets are different, and I got so much of things to learn. So, for example, when a employee like you and me will go on leave, we will plan it, we'll take the approval, and we will rarely go on leave without taking the approval. But here, if an employee needs to be on leave, he or she will be on leave, whether you give the approval or not. And initially used to think that people are indisciplined. Then I realized, no, it's not about discipline, it's about the social priority. For us, career is an important thing. For them, career is just a means of livelihood. For them, what counts is how much do I earn every day, so which we call dihadi. So if a person knows that I will be able to earn it from somewhere, either from this company or somewhere else. So for him, a social event in his hometown or in his family, or a mishap in his family or among his network is more important than beyond the work. So that is how the behavior is. So if we are able to understand that and align the policies and the practices to accommodate this practice, we are creating a different organization. And India is a country where we have most of the people are like that. So the employment data, if you look at 90% of the people who have got got employment in last 3 months are people who have joined in the unorganized sector. Among them, 60% are people who are 10th or class 10th pass or 12th pass. So we are a country where the jobs has to be labor intensive, because you cannot have a situation where you cannot give employment opportunity to your population. So if that is the case, and if your bottom of the pyramid is big, and those are the organizations, those are the places where organizations are happening or the impact is getting created, you cannot afford not to know what works for them or what does not work for them. Of course, it's a journey to get them into the discipline, to make them feel in the same way you and me feel, the way you and me behave. But it's a huge, it's a different world. So workers organization, non-workers organization is very different.
True. And now that you have kind of toggled, you know exactly how the entire dynamics work. So with that, Amita, we had the 20 years of your enriching career, and inshallah, more years of stories, best practices to follow along with the Labor Codes website. Big congratulations that it just got launched a couple of days back. And I have put the link on the chat box for everyone who want to go through his website and at the same time learn from it through the master classes, through the podcast, through the write-ups that are there. There are white paper material as well, which is without any fee. You can definitely go ahead and get a lot of knowledge input to what has changed in the environment of labor codes. With that, we have another 10 minutes, and I'm opening up this forum for all of us who are there in this discussion to write their comments. If there are any questions, then please put it on chat box. There is one comment that has come from Shubhobroto Sarkar. It says, but how much does the Indian companies allow this? If frequently if we allow such leaves and read their sentiments, will it not affect work?
Okay. So again, the initial thought, which I exactly had the same thought when I started getting into this, and believe me, people come to work for earning. People never come to work not to earn. So these things happens. A person who has migrated from, suppose a person who is working in Bangalore who has come from Uttar Pradesh, the person will go to the marriages in family. It happens with us. So if you look around yourself, people who are working as home workers or people who are working in your society as construction workers. Just observe their behavior. You will see the similar thing. They have something to do. They will go to their villages for 15 days, 20 days. So can we have a plan? Can we have a policy where you allow these things? Because these are all known things. During the Chhat, if your location is in a North Indian place, and if you have got people from Bihar, UP, they will go to their hometown for Chhat. This is a known event. You will have to have the insight. You will have to plan for it. But the moment you are doing this, you are engaging them. It is their need. So we talk about engagement. Only the model has to be different. It has to be customized as per the employee's requirement. And that's what today we are talking, isn't it? On mass resignation, we are talking about knowing what the employee needs. We are talking about the employee's need for flexibility, for flexible working hours. So here also there is a need. We just need to be sensitive about the need and customize our policy, which is doable.
That's right. So any more questions that we have? Yes, we have from Zubin. How do you integrate freshers, lateral hires into the company culture? Are there some best practices that you have applied during your experience and career?
Okay. So again, I will not get into the details. I will have a very simple funda which I practice. I don't know it works for Zubair or not. I hired a management trainee in an organization. I will not name the organization. The person we hired for a marketing role, and this girl we hired from IIM. So this girl wanted to do a brand manager role, and we picked up from the batch of 10 or 12 boys in the batch when we were doing the selection. So this girl joined. She did not get a brand manager role. She was looking to move out of the organization, and somehow she called me up. So she is working in an organization where I am not her HR. She called me because I have hired her some years back. So and she told me, I asked her, why do you want to leave? She told me that I want to get into the role. I'm not getting the role. So I said, have you checked enough? She said, I in my organization I'm not getting. So I said, have you looked into the organization in other parts? Probably you'll get a role. So I just helped to reach her to the HR. I explained the context. In fact, the HR person was a friend of mine, so I could explain her need, her requirement, and I told him, why don't you assess? Otherwise, you lose a good candidate. If she is a bright employee, you assess on merit. If you find that you have a role, please go ahead and take your call. So this girl she was selected. There was a role, and the organization was willing to take it up. So the way freshers, if you're talking about freshers or laterals, the first thing is you need to take charge of your career. And if you have a requirement, if you have a need, reach out, talk to people rather than being close. And generally what happens, we come, there's if something does not meet our expectation, we immediately we change the gear, we start moving or looking outside. But talking to people within the organization gives you perspective. So that is one way I practice of integrating the hires, whether it's lateral hire or else. And you have got, of course, mentees. You have got the system of mentors and all, where you can always reach out to. So if you can create the mentor system in all, it perfectly works. But then more than the structure, it is the practice. For example, in NTPC during my times, there was no mentorship structure. It was by chance that I got a mentor, and when you talk to a mentor, you respect him fully, and you believe him fully. So that is how you get the insight. So I think those are the things which a fresher will have to do. And there is, of course, other than that, I probably do not have a set guideline of managing these issues.
Yeah, sure, because it's coming from the experiences that you have. And when we speak from experiences, best practices, and failure stories, like how we talked about the unlearning part of what need not be done anymore with the dynamics in the environment, were there any conflicts that you handled between the business and people office? That's one of the questions that have come up. Because from the stories that I have heard, I see that there was a lot of synergy, and that is exactly why I'm asking you the question first.
Okay. Yeah, so it will happen. So I will be lying if I say there was no conflict between HR. So if the question I understood is whether there was a conflict between HR and business.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so that will always be there. That will always be there. But then how you manage it? At times you the best funda which I know is when you are at loggerheads, take the game up, speak about business. Do not discuss about the issue, speak about the business. Take the issue up. And when you take the issue up, that gives you the solution. Second is speak with data, because an opinion people will have a point of view. But if you are speaking with data, that gives a perspective. And third is when you are talking about issue, you should always have a solution alternative, 1, 2, 3. So probably with this framework, the issue gets resolved. And but having said all these things, Shweta, this is the art which you learn. So clearly, in my Pepsi days, when I was initially into the leadership role, I was at loggerhead with the manufacturing head and quality head. But they are the best friends now. So I have left PepsiCo so many days ago. Uh, you learn the art of getting together with business, and that's how you start learning. You become a business partner. So if there is a conflict, that means you are relevant, your matter counts. So finding a solution again is an art which comes by practice.
And that is how Shubhabruto has thanked you and has rightly coined the outcome, or the summarization of what you just said is
HRBP.
You're talking about partnership. Yes. And there are times when the human resource division is called the HRBP, business partner role. So moving on to the last question, or maybe a couple of more with the benefit of time. We have Anindo who wants to know, IR means peace and HR means improvement. In this COVID situation, do you think IR will gain more importance than HR?
Okay, very nice question, Anindo. So my take here is IR and HR are same. There is a man-made difference between IR and HR. And believe me, Anindo, with my deep detailing, understanding, finding answer to this question, and believe me, I have tried to find out answer whether IR and HR are separate. My conclusion is they are same thing, and IR is the highest level of organization development. So what is organization development? Organization development is how you impact the people related process to make the organization much more effective. And in IR, so-called IR, so the word IR of course is dead, but in IR, whatever you do collectively, you are investing in people, you are doing group thing, you are talking to out group, you are talking to in group. So look at the framework, look at the context, the definitions in organization development, organization behavior. You are solving a OB problem and a OD problem through IR intervention. So fundamentally, there is no difference between HR and IR. So if you say IR is for workers, HR is for non-workers, there are cases we see non-workers agitating, we see non-workers protesting. So probably HR, the workers are more open, more outspoken. The non-workers will go for something called group thing. They will come, there will be some small group which will be saying something, other group will be staying outside. You manage all these things. So a person inadvertently wears the hat of HR and IR without knowing. So this different, to my mind, does not exist.
Thank you so much for that, Amitav. Thank you for your reflections, stories, the times of learn, relearn, unlearn. We have a couple of more questions. I would request you to write to our NHRD email ID, and they would come back to you with the answers in case I have missed any of the questions for the benefit of time. It's going to be 5 p.m. sharp, and what we are going to do is just conclude the session, because what we've got as a learning from Amitav, I don't think needs a rephrase. I would rather quote the leader who is being talked about in most of the forums, which is from Leena Nair, the ex-CHR of Unilever and presently the CEO of Chanel. As a leader, we need to focus on digitization, but at the same time, we need to become more human. And I think that is what was the context setting to the summarization of the discussion we had. Whether the leader is coining in the role of a mentor, or he is moving a business from the HR perspective to better revenue, or is he bringing in a harmonization in the union sector that he's working in. So it's the people, and how do we rise above everything else to become a better person? Because we are working on something which is called the human element of business. So with that, thank you so much, Amitav, for your valuable time. Shubhabroto concludes us again by saying it's about humans, people sentiment, and we are people resource. Completely in concurrence with that, I wish everyone a very, very good evening. Thank you, Amitav. A very, very warm Sankranti to all of you again. Our warm wishes for a lovely year ahead, which is lying in front of us with a lot of responsibilities to create the change we want to see in the world with the changing dynamics that are happening. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.